While I would hesitate to call the Paragon devs idiots, I feel the sentiment of this so much. Gideon had one of the coolest, most iconic ultimates in Paragon, but it also ended up being one of the most changed and tinkered with as the game's life went on. I think that Predecessor has a real shot of fixing this, specifically through the item system, because not all of those changes were good.
And the big change is we've reduced the radius of black hole, but now it stuns you. And that's going to be... It stuns you.
In the entire AoE.
Everyone in the AoE. So essentially what we're saying is Gideon is now... The natural gameplay is I want to teleport above 5 people and ult them.
Hey internet strangers, Truth in here. Wanted to first say thank you for all the love on the past video and all the comments and conversations. I do read all of them, and that's kind of where this video came from. That said, let's jump right into this. I definitely see the design dilemma that Gideon's Black Hole Ultimate creates. It doesn't feel good to feel like you're making the correct play and ulting in a good position just to get stunned or to get turned on and killed very quickly, but you also can't remove counterplay or just add other ultimates to an ultimate to make it work. More on that in just a second. But let's start again with this conversation with the Paragon devs.
We can adjust his math. And then the final problem that Gideon has, the major problem is, his ultimate is like he needs to jump into a group of people because like you want to hit as many people as possible. Right. But as the game gets on, you're essentially like going, kill me.
Yep. The less people I ultimate, the
slower
so it's
I die. Like you use this giant big AoE team fight ultimate that's a giant black hole, but the best use of it is ganking a solo dude. It's like, that's kind of weird. So
I think a fair way to summarize part of this conversation would be that Gideon just wasn't meeting their design goals. I discussed in a previous video that I think Predecessor is doing a great job of meeting those design goals and understanding their characters, and I think that they know that Gideon's ult isn't supposed to be situationally perfect for every situation. The main features of it should be the pull and the damage, as he is a mage. While Epic seemed determined to make sure that Gideon's ult had a similar level of value throughout every stage of a match and against any variety of comps. That's why, throughout the game's lifespan, they tried giving Gideon's ult shields, just because. They tried giving him CC immunity, just because. They tried upping the damage or upping the slow or whatever combination of those two things over and over and over again, especially in early Monolith. And even as we got to the point where they gave his ult a stun, they didn't seem super sure about it, and they were still, up until very shortly before that, trying other solutions still.
Anyways,
and we did try to problem solve some of those, right, Cam? I mean, if I recall correctly, we tried some other options outside of the stun even.
Yeah, we tried a silence to start with, and the silence worked very well, except, again, late game carries just looked up and went pew pew pew, and you just died, and it was like, well, the end.
And this is where we pick up, where I think that Predecessor has a huge advantage, because they're not limited to some 3-card system or some stat-based card system. Predecessor actually has a fully realized, well-thought-out item shop that makes it where you can recreate pretty much all of the solutions that Epic tried for Gideon's ult, as well as several more that are new and I think more exciting, rather than them just being something that his ult needs to do, end quote.
Kind of like when Steel shows up and he just ults you and you get stunned. Like it's like this is something that he needs to just be able to do.
Gotcha.
Right. You get to make choices. Let's jump into this. Let's start with the first two solutions that Epic tried way back in the Legacy days of giving Gideon an inbuilt shield to his kit during his ult and then CC immunity during his ult. First, I'm going to go ahead and answer the question one more time. Why can't those just be part of his kit? There's this character called Terra, and her entire ultimate was to gain unstoppability and a shield. Why then would it be good game design to give another character another character's ultimate during their ultimate ability? It's like Gideon's ult has its own ult. So instead of magically getting those things for free in the character's kit, let's talk about the items in Predecessor that you can get these effects from. Starting with shields and CC immunity, we'll do these together. First up, Soul Bearer. This card has great stats for mages, mana, magic pin, ability haste, power, obviously. But then the active, you shield yourself for 25% of your maximum mana for 4 seconds, and while the shield is there until it's broken, you're CC immune. Holy crap, that's everything that a Gideon could ever want. Pop this card mid-ult when you feel the stuns coming or the carry turning to pew-pew you, and you're good. Next, let's do a spell shield. Spellbreaker. This one is pretty standard. It grants a spell shield that blocks the next ability and on a 40-second cooldown. I like these because they can offer you protection, but they also provide counterplay. If 2 people turn and use an ability on you, you can still get stunned out of the ult. Next up in the vein of spell shields is True Silver Bracelet. And this one may be even better just because you won't have to actively manage your cooldown time on your spell shield. Got great stats as well. But while ulting, you cast a spell shield for 6 seconds. That seems pretty busted on characters with a channeled ult. And Gideon will of course be no exception. I actually have footage of this from playing Narbash when both of us had this card in the playtest. And things get pretty crazy. Next up, Stun Ult Gideon. I know that some people really did enjoy that part of the rework. I might not have been one of them, but it did increase his teamfight ultimate potential, and there are ways to recreate that in Predecessor. The item Stonewall and its passive Shockwave seem to be the best way to make this happen. When taking damage that will put you below 30% maximum health, you unleash a Shockwave that stuns all nearby enemies for 1.5 seconds. So imagine you're in a team fight, you're trading, you're at 75 to 50% health. You know it's time now to go up for your ultimate, and you can time it well enough. You will have to work for it, where if people do turn to shoot you, this would be really good comboed with one of the CC immunity kind of cards as well. They do turn to shoot you. If you go below a certain percentage of health, boom, stun. Everybody in your ultimate gets stunned and pulled back to the center of it. The other passive also gives you physical damage reduction. Combine that with some health and armor, and this is a really good late game Gideon card to protect you from carries. Speaking of protecting yourself from carries during a Gideon ult, I think that Predecessor has several items that can do that very well and gives you more avenues to play Gideon the way that you want to play him. Now some of these items might look kind of supporty, but as a mid laner, hey, you get an extra ward, you get a little bit of support potential. I don't think anybody's going to complain. Start with Malediction. Magical power, physical armor, mana regeneration, and then an active where you get to target a nearby enemy hero, slowing and reducing their attack speed by 40% for 3 seconds. Cast that thing on a Sparrow, go up for your ult, profit. Next one that looks really fun to me is Razorback. This is more of a tank item, but imagine you're up there doing your Gideon thing, you're damaging everybody, you cast this card, multiple people turn to shoot you, multiple people take 40% damage back through the active on this card. This one will be very situational, but then again, kind of all of these will, and that's the point of a well-rounded item system. Last one that looks super fun to me is Abyssal Bracers. This one I think is really cool. Casting an ability grants 3 magical power and 5 physical armor for 5 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. Guess what your cycle is going to be on a Gideon? You throw a meteor, you use your torn space, and then you ult. That's 4 abilities right there. And if you used any of them in the 5 seconds before that, you're doing more damage because of the increased magical power, and taking less damage because of the increase in physical armor, up to 25 stacks of armor, by the way. I think this one's going to be a ton of fun. But truthin', what if it's not the carries I'm worried about? What if they've got a Decker or a Narbash waiting to stun me? Guess what? There were cards like this in Paragon by the end, but you can just cast a silence on them with Silentium. Just pick out the target that you're most worried about interrupting your ultimate. If you interrupt them doing something, even better. And then you get to feel safer while up there doing your Gideon thing. This, combined with any of the spell shield cards we discussed earlier, could pretty much guarantee a full duration Gideon ult if you position well and have a little bit of tankiness going on. Okay, so let's move on to some more advanced options, some more unique ones to Predecessor as well. Check out Time Flux Band. The stats in this item are great for mages like Gideon, but the active is definitely the coolest part of this item. Imagine you're in a big team fight. You know you're going to have to pull out a big ult for your team to have a shot to win it. You activate this item, you teleport in, you do your ult, and then as soon as your ult channel is over, it brings you back to that safe position that you started from. This way, even if you get stunned out of it, or if you take, a significant amount of damage, as long as you are still alive, you get teleported back to the safe location. I think it's going to be really fun. Another fun mobility-based one could be Rift Walkers. Again, good stats for a mage, get that second ward, and you get another blink. So you blink forward. When you blink, it pulls all enemy heroes towards you within a certain area. And then they take more damage. So you pull them in, then you cast your ult with your torn space that you still have left while they're already pulled into you, and then they also take more damage. This is just super exciting, and it's stuff that we never could have seen with Paragon's V42 3-card system. Last one, and then I'll shut up. Lifebinder. I'm not sure how this passive is going to work out without being able to test it, but if you hit an enemy hero with an ability, it restores 5% of your maximum health over 5 seconds. Excess healing will be converted into a shield up to 10% maximum health. So I don't see a cooldown on that. Pretend you hit somebody with a rock, another meteor, then you go up for an ult and you catch 2 or 3 people, especially if this stacks, and the fact that it has lifesteal on the card itself. This could be a ton of fun. you could be up there ulting, draining people's health and being unkillable, especially if you have a big lead. So you don't always have to build into those utility items that I was talking about earlier. But in closing, this is just a few of the items that stood out to me. There's so many more. This isn't really a build guide either. I definitely wouldn't suggest slapping all these actives and passives together in a willy-nilly way, but it just is there to point out the possibilities, that all the things that you were able to do in Paragon, you can still do, you just don't get them for free, and there's even more new options. Of course, if you don't like any of those, you can still just build all damage and then cry about it when you get melted during a late game ult, which I think is where a lot of these problems came from, which granted the itemization system kind of limited to you to do that. Or go ahead, full meme build as a tank and just laugh as your enemies try to kill you while you're ulting. There's so many options, and I'm super excited to get to try them all out the next time that we're allowed to play Predecessor together. In closing, I think that Predecessor does something that Paragon wasn't able to. They're able to add things to each character's kit through the item system and give players choice over which of those additional effects they want, rather than them having to be baked into the kit because there's so few options in itemization. And I think that things are only going to get better as more items are added and as the game matures. But that's enough from me. I want to hear from you guys. I hope this video kind of demonstrates it too, but I do love to continue the conversations that you guys have in the comment section, and it does affect my content in the future. Shout out to AO Trav for the comment that kind of inspired this video. Huge thank you to everybody that's liked and subscribed and shared videos of the channel recently. This definitely wasn't what I was expecting when I put out that video a few weeks back, but I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you internet strangers in the next one.